Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yeiter Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome. Welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network on more than 30 radio stations across this great state of Michigan, and so glad to have you along with us, especially right now, because you got a lot of things you could be doing. You got a lot of really cool things in the outdoors, in the woods, in the field, on the water. And the fact that you have chosen to tune in or download or stream or whatever and hear my voice right now, thank you. I do certainly appreciate that. What happened to Rocktober? Where did that month go? It seems like it was just last week when I was saying, hey, welcome to the month of Rocktober. As you are listening to the broadcast version of this show, Rocktober's gone. We're now in November. But that's not a bad month either, right? Because November, the first 2 weeks of November, especially that first week of November, the whitetail rut, and then followed by the opening day of the firearm deer season. There are worse things that could happen in a month, right? The whitetail rut, that magical time in the woods when the whitetail buck's testosterone level increases and they become a little less wary. You might see them walking, daywalkers, they call them. You might see a buck that for the entire year has only shown himself after dark on your trail cameras. You might see him walking right in the middle of the day now because he's got one thing in his mind, and that's does. And your odds, I think, and I'm not an expert, but I mean, come on, this is common sense, right? I think your odds of shooting a nice buck are probably better right now in the next 2 weeks, especially week and a half, 2 weeks, than they are any other time of year. Because the bucks are up and they're moving and they're chasing and they're out there during the daytime. Now, if you're bow hunting, now this is before the firearm season, if you're bow hunting and the bucks are chasing, that can be a challenge. Because you might see a nice buck, but he's just running by you. You're going to hear him coming through the leaves, crunch, 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 crunch. And maybe if you're really, really lucky, you'll hear a grunt. And then crunch, 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 crunch. And then you see the doe, and she's looking over her shoulder, and she's taking off because she's not ready yet, and that buck's right behind her, and boom, they're gone. So you got to see him, but you didn't get a shot. But every once in a while, you'll see a nice buck out cruising by himself. You might get him to stop, or he might stop on his own. Or, for some reason, the heavens might smile on you. Mother Nature might grace you with her goodness. And that doe will just stop for no reason right there in front of you with a buck behind her. It's like, okay, this is why we hunt. This is why we deer hunt. One of the many reasons why we deer hunt. For me, I'm not as hardcore as I used to be. I'm not as intense as I used to be. A lot of that comes with age. A lot of that comes with just doing it long enough that, I don't think I am as intense with anything in the outdoors as I used to be. But that doesn't mean that I enjoy it any less. Intensity is, and I'll use this example. When you're young, and I'll use deer hunting as an example, but this applies to everything in the outdoors, hunting or fishing. When you're young, you go out there and it's like, okay, I don't know anything about this. I just want to learn, and I want to take my first deer. I don't care what it is. I want to take my first deer. So then you take your first deer, and maybe it's a small buck or maybe it's a doe. And you say, now I want to shoot a buck, or I want to shoot a bigger buck. And then that becomes your goal. You hit that goal, and then you're good. Until you say, I want to shoot, say, a whole bunch of does now and a couple of big bucks. So your goals just keep increasing throughout your life as your skill level increases, and the intensity back in those years can be something. I mean, you eat, sleep, dream, think about this outdoor passion. And then you get a little older, and you realize it is just as important as ever. However you enjoy it, you being me, Avery, I enjoy it in different ways. For me now, it's the experience that is the experience. Just being out there. And I'll tell you what, this last week really brought this home. Last week was my stroke anniversary. The 1-year anniversary of my stroke. And just let me take this opportunity to talk about this for a second, because a lot of people have strokes and don't know it, and they go on and they forget about it. Sometimes that can be a real problem. In my case, I knew something was up. I was walking out to the mailbox. I felt like the right side of my brain collapsed. I didn't fall to the ground, but I almost did. My balance was off. My vision was off. I was able to stumble into the house. I got into a chair. My wife, Denise, said, "What's wrong?" I said, "I don't know." She looked at me and said, "I'm calling the ambulance." And I didn't fight her this time because I knew something was wrong. Vision was gone. Paralysis on the right side. Droopiness on the right side. Dragging my arm, dragging my leg. It was obvious something happened, and before too long, it was pretty obvious what it was. They got me into the hospital. They gave me the cocktail, the miracle cocktail, which is the clot-busting drug. And within a few hours, and in the hospital, I was in rough shape. I mean, when I hear the stories about what I was like in the hospital, not knowing my name, quoting Bible verses when they asked me questions, it was pretty bad. They gave me the cocktail. Within a few hours, man, I was back. I wasn't completely back, but it was obvious I was going to make it. So, if you think you are having a stroke, or if you think you see someone who is having a stroke, don't waste time. Call the ambulance, call the paramedics, get them to the hospital. Hopefully you can get there in time to get that miracle drug, that clot-busting drug. It's not, they can't use it for all types of strokes, but for me it was perfect. So let my experience be a lesson to you. Okay, so having said that, these days, I'm just happy to be in the woods. Would I love to shoot a big buck this year? Absolutely. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I don't. Do I think I'm even going to get a shot at a 2.5-year-old buck or bigger this year? No. Doesn't keep me from going. If it does happen, it's like, woohoo, outstanding. But just being out there, and I did the Charlie Rood show on WSTW last week, and we were talking about this. Looking forward to the opening day of firearm season. I will be out there. My son James will be out there. My grandson Trent will be out there. My granddaughter Addison will be out there. That's enough reason for me right there to go out hunting. More than enough reason. And, hopefully they will see deer and shoot deer. And if I get a chance, great. If not, it's okay. It's okay. Just being out there and continuing this history, continuing this tradition. Speaking of continuing, the problem with the beavers continues. It's really cool when you look at the pond behind the house the first time you see those beavers and go, "Oh, we got beavers back there." And then in my mind, it was like 5 seconds like, "Uh-oh, we got problems." And yeah, when I had the brush cleaned out behind the house, the beavers zeroed in on the trees. I had like 7 trees left standing. Intentionally? Not anymore. Beavers took them down. And I found their house, their lodge. You can see it on an island out there. And it's like a straight shot from the island to my backyard. And now there's a pile of sticks building up next to the lodge, which is their food supply, which means they're hunkering down, getting ready for winter. Hopefully, by the time we talk next week, there will be 1 or 2 beavers less in the pond. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show after the break, taxidermist Scott Kietzman of Linwood Taxidermy talks about preserving your hunting memories. You know, when I got downstairs and look at my mounts, it's like I can remember each one of those animals vividly. A great way to remember those outdoor experiences. Then Bryan Farmer of the Hunt Michigan Collaborative. What is that? I don't know. We're going to find out. Plus Nick Grillo of Michigan Brand. They've got a new product coming out. And I want to see how Nick's fall bow hunting is going. Nick is a hardcore hunter. In our second hour, Alan Perry talks about the use of tracking dogs to recover fatally wounded whitetails. Then Justin Tomei of MUCC checks in. This week's Ask Avery segment, I have a couple of questions out there right now that would be good Ask Avery segments, but I don't have answers yet. So if I get those answers before then, that'll be the topic. And if not, maybe I'll just tap dance for that 7 minutes. In our third hour, we're talking fall fishing with Mark Martin. I suspect we'll also talk about deer hunting the sand dunes as well. And we're going to wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I would love to hear from you. Send me your pictures. Don't send me your pictures in a social media message. Send them to me in a good old-fashioned email, mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. We'll take a break. When we come back, Scott Kietzman of Linwood Taxidermy right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. And north of the bridge in Marquette, WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. How many times have you heard me say that? What do I mean by that? Well, why buy a bunch of different sets of expensive hunting clothes when you can buy one good quality set that is warm, wind-resistant, water-resistant, well-made, and then just snap on and zip on an outer shell of a different camo pattern in about a minute, certainly less than 2 minutes. Company owner Paul Perrone came up with a great idea when he started this. And when you see it, it's like, why didn't somebody do this before? It makes such sense. If you need big sizes, 4, 5, 6X, VersaSkins can help you out. If you are a saddle hunter, VersaSkins makes the jacket specifically for saddle hunting. Learn more on the website versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com, or go to amazon.com and do a search for VersaSkins brand. VersaSkins, just change your skin for the season you're in. And the season we're in right now, as you're hearing this show, is November. What does that mean? Well, different things to different people. Could be small game, could be waterfowl, could be bird hunting still, could be deer hunting. Any one of those things is an activity that is wonderful. Get you outside, get you off the couch, get you away from the screens. And you want to remember those adventures, those activities. What a good way to do that? Take pictures, shoot video. You got a phone in your pocket, right? A great way to remember those memories. And engrave them in your brain. Some people that works better than others. Or you can have it when you have a really nice hunt and a great harvest. Go see your local taxidermist. Scott Kietzman is a guy I've worked with for quite a while now. He's with Linwood Taxidermy. The website, linwoodtaxidermy.com. By the way, that website, linwoodtaxidermy.com, is under construction right now, so hang tight. Just put that in the back of your memory or write it down and go. Keep checking in there periodically for the new website. But Scott's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Scott, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, Scott. Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me back.
Always a pleasure. Yeah. So listen, how's your fall season going so far? Have you been busy?
As usual. Yeah, the deer are dropping. The fish are being caught. It seems to be a pretty decent duck season ramping up. guys are shooting some beautiful birds, really mature, which is odd for the state of Michigan, especially this time of year. Shooting some beautiful birds out here on the wonderful Saginaw Bay. So yeah, we're looking good.
You are in an interesting spot there too, geographically, because you got the bay right there for the waterfowl hunting, the walleye fishing. I know people bring bears into you from Canada all across Michigan. Same thing for whitetails. So you have established a very nice reputation.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, when I first got into this 30 plus years ago, the guy that I was working for and did most of his work for, he had trained me to do everything. And he said, because you never really know, what seasons are gonna provide for you, So get good, get skilled, learn anatomy of everything. So I, it took years and years, 10 plus years to do that. And I'm very fortunate that we're able to basically mount anything here at the shop. I mean, if I don't do it, I've got people that do it here with me. So we're fortunate there. Yeah.
And I feel like in your business, it's interesting because you have people like you who are full-time, year-round. This is all you do, taxidermist. And a lot
Correct.
of people who are just getting into the sport or only doing it as a hobby, who do the work on the sides, out of the basement or out of the garage. They do it on the side. And then when I, as a hunter, say I shoot a big buck, I'm forced with a decision of who do I take it to. How should that decision be made? What should I look for, Scott?
Well, nothing against the hobbyist, the guy that does it on the side. There's some valid people out there that do great work. I know a bunch of school teachers, some machinists. They've got different careers that, that provides health insurance and steady income for their family. So kudos to them. But just if this is your trophy of a lifetime, just remember that if you take it to somebody like that, that's not their priority. Their priority is their job. Again, there's some wonderful people that do wonderful side work out there. Nothing against them. Those people are definitely there. But when you take it a full-time taxidermist, someone who's committed, spent the time and the money and the energy, is fully insured, licensed, got a reputation with your local DNR, there's some security there in the fact that your trophy is in a secure place and is that person's top priority. When you walk in my doors, your trophy, how you're served, how you're treated, the money you spend here is my top priority. So there's that aspect to look at.
You mentioned money, like everything else, prices have gone up. Boy, the cost of, say, a shoulder mount over the last 5 years has increased, hasn't it?
Like everything else.
Yeah.
That's the times we live in, unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever. But, things are getting to the point to where, hunts are expensive, taxidermy is expensive, gear is expensive. It just is. But we haven't noticed anything really slowing down. People are still getting out there and doing their thing, and they're getting their trophies mounted.
I think taxidermy is one area that personally I don't want to scrimp on. I don't want to shop
Right.
for the cheapest taxidermist just to save a few bucks because I'm going to be looking at that mount for the next 20 or 30 years.
Absolutely. Again, there's a lot of hobbyists out there that do fabulous work, but if you're looking to save, $300-400 on a mount, be prepared for the results that you may possibly get from saving that money. Consequences of your decisions, just do your research. That's all I can say. Walk through a guy's showroom, talk to his client list. A good taxidermist should provide you with 5-6 numbers of people to call, and do your due diligence, as I say, and know what you're getting into. In today's day and age, the internet's a great thing. You go on your Google reviews, look at the reviews people leave. Websites are awesome. Not to say there's not frauds out there. There is, but just do your diligence. And, you can only do, people are on a budget. You can only afford X amount of dollars.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
Be prepared for that result,
How long should say a shoulder mount on a whitetail? How long should that last?
How long should it last?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I've got them on the wall. They're 20 years old. If they're, and they look great. If they're maintained correctly, well, first of all, if they're taken care of by the hunter correctly, that's step one, is to make sure it's prepared correctly and getting get to your taxidermist in a timely manner. But if it's mounted properly, the proper canning process is taking place, good quality, everything, the person who mounted it knows what he's doing. I've got them on. I mean, how long should they last is up in the air, but I've got them on while they're 20 years old.
Yeah.
They look great.
So I'm thinking in my case, the mounts that I have, these are things that if my kids want them, they're passed down to future generations. These are long-term investments.
Absolutely. I've redone mounts that were mounted back in as early as the 70s. That were, eyes falling out of them, noses cracked, ears hanging off them. They're just horrible. I can tell you that products and materials from 1970, I've done them from back in the 20s, they were mounted. Products to preserve your animal have just skyrocketed in quality. You should no longer have those issues with your mounts. And yeah, they should be something you can hand down generation to generation, absolutely.
What should we do as hunters? And let's think about deer hunters in particular right now. We've got an animal we want mounted, and it doesn't have to be a trophy buck. It doesn't even have to be a buck. It could be a first deer, a kid's first deer. It doesn't matter. We've got an animal that we want to get mounted. What do we do as a hunter to make your job better and to get a better mount out of this whole process?
Yeah, I get those calls every day. First of all, understand that the minute his heart stops beating, the decay process has started. And then you add moisture and blood, which is a protein which breaks down epidermals. Understand that the decay process has started. And just because it's cool in your garage doesn't mean that animal can sit there for a week and be okay when you get to the taxidermist. What you see, what you drop off to the taxidermist isn't always what the results are. And I'll say 90% of the time, it's the client's problem. They're the ones that have delayed the process. So just be smart about it. Either if you can get it into your taxidermist fresh within the first day or two of that animal, of taking that animal's life, that's the best thing you can do. If not, you've got to get it in a deep freeze bag, it in a heavy trash bag, get it in a deep freeze, get the decaying process stopped, and just, when I say treat it like you're going to eat it. You wouldn't take a piece of chicken and slap it in your garage floor and leave it lay there for a week and then eat it.
Yeah.
Kind of use that mental process.
What about such a simple thing as dragging the deer out? I mean, there's a right way and a wrong way to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Highly do not recommend dragging them behind four-wheelers, dragging them behind pickup trucks, even just long drags, behind yourself. If you're going to mount this animal, you're going to mount it, treat it with the proper care, get it in a jet sled and take it out, carry it out, do whatever you got to do to keep from dragging it over limbs and rocks and sticks, and all of that abuse on the hair will make that hair fall out, will break hairs, will give you bald spots on the hides. No ropes around the necks. You're going to break hairs. You're going to have marks on your mount for the rest of your life. There's nothing we can do about that. We're not God. We can only do so much. We can do a lot, but there's only so much we could do. So no ropes around the necks, careful dragging it, no high-speed drags, and no laying them across the hood of your cars. I know guys don't do that. It's kind of a 1970s thing. Going bar to bar, for 3 days, showing off your animal while it's underneath the tonneau cover in your truck cooking. So cold and dry. That's what I've always told you, cold and dry. Keep your animal cold and dry.
Scott, always a pleasure. I will wish you a wonderful deer season and encourage people to check you out. That website, linwoodtaxidermy.com. How long before that's up and running, Scott?
We're working with the people every day. Right now, we're looking at probably 6 to 8 weeks. I know hunting season is not a great time, to be doing this, but unfortunately, this is where we're at. So hopefully about 6 weeks, we should have a brand new, awesome website. We're cranking.
In the meantime, though, the Facebook page is up and running, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's send people to the Facebook page on Facebook, Linwood Taxidermy. All right, Scott, have a great season. Thanks for your time. We'll talk again.
Thanks, Mike. God bless.
All right, Scott Kietzman of Linwood Taxidermy. When I used to work with a guy named R.J. Meyer when there was a trophy room taxidermy studio in Jay Sporting Goods. R.J. retired, moved down south. I said, R.J., who should I work with now? And he passed the baton. He passed the torch to Scott. He said, Scott's your guy. He's a great guy. And I've worked with Scott ever since. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, Bryan Farmer of the Hunt Michigan Collaborative. can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Carroll on two stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Port Huron, WPHM 1380 AM, and north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination, waterfowl hunting destination, ice fishing destination, and your Mid-Michigan Angler Quest headquarters. Check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. If you are still holding out to have the boat winterized, I said it. I said the W word. Anyway, for that season that's coming up that gets really cold and there's snow and ice, Linwood Beach can help you out there. They can also shrink wrap your boat and store it as well. linwoodbeachmarina.com. For the last couple of months, I've been hearing about a group and a guy's name from people I respect, and they said, Mike, you got to have this guy on. His name is Bryan Farmer, and the group is the Hunt Michigan Collaborative. Now, I have done a little bit of research online, but I don't know much, so it seemed like a good time to get Bryan on the show here to talk more about what they are up to, and he has graciously agreed to join us. Bryan, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, great. Thanks for having me.
Listen, it's a real pleasure. So tell me what the Hunt Michigan Collaborative is.
Well, I'm gonna start off. I'm gonna rewind a little bit and say where it came from.
Sure.
So in 2024, I was put on the DMI, and they were looking for new ideas. And part of my
the DMI was the Deer Management Initiative.
Yes.
Yep.
So sort of my career, I'm in the Parks and Rec industry, working for a municipality, and one of my job responsibilities is urban deer management. And the other, I got several responsibilities, but another one was we started an archery program in 2011. We built an archery range in 2015, and we learned back then that there was a big interest in people wanting to hunt. I started leading this group called the Michigan Recreation and Park Association Archery Focus Area in 2017, and to today's date, we have 50 Parks and Rec departments doing archery programs across the state. And we've taken these people that said on the surveys, 40 to 50% of the people said they wanted to hunt when we asked these participants, and only 10% have hunted. So we realized a while ago that, hey, we've got something big here. We can really grow hunting. And we tested out. We took people deer hunting, goose hunting, bow fishing. Every time we did it, it sold out. So when I was put on the DMI in 2024, it was because of my leadership. Another hat I wear is the Southeast Michigan Urban Deer Coalition, trying to get urban deer management going, as well as the archery stuff. So I knew for several years, like, hey, we can grow hunting. So when I got put on that DMI, I proposed the idea of the Hunt Michigan Collaborative to the group as a new idea, something that could really fulfill all of our objectives. And the vote was 22 in favor of and 0 against, and 2 abstained because they didn't really want to vote for anything. So that's where it was born. Immediately, as soon as everybody heard about it, it was endorsed by organizations like the National Deer Association, National Wild Turkey Federation, Pheasants Forever, Network Outdoors, MUCC. So it really got everybody excited. And with that momentum, I thought, okay, now is the time. Maybe it needs to be a nonprofit, and the money needs to go support getting more of these archery ranges built in parks, more archery equipment across the state, and just start connecting people to all these opportunities that our organizations offer, like the conservation clubs and MUCC and your golf outing. I mean, people just don't know about it in society. It's just the hunters that really hear about it. So how do we connect those people? So really, the Hunt Michigan Collaborative does 2 things. And one is we connect people to all these opportunities. So those 40 to 50% of those people that do archery, they can now hear about it through a lot of different means. So there's a QR code that we put together. And when you go on that, you can pull up a calendar, and it shows all these different events that clubs offer, that the Turkey Federation offers, the DNR offers. So it's really a calendar that's growing, and it's a clearinghouse to be able to help us all market to everybody that's looking for something to do. The second thing it does, which again, this is where, like, we have our board is made up of some top-notch people like Mike Mitchell from MUCC. We got the president of the National Deer Association of Michigan, Mike Kettlar. We got the state coordinator for National Wild Turkey Federation and Pheasants Forever. So these people are really helping to put our minds together to really grow this thing. And one of the main things that we came up with was the Hunt Michigan Collaborative National Deer Association Farm Tour. And what that is we're working with farmers, even nature preserves and other properties, to give access to hunters to be able to go on that property and start harvesting antlerless deer. And it's working. We tested it out last year. But one of the concerns that farmers have always had is liability. And with the National Deer Association, they cover that liability. They put a policy together for that farmer, for the hunters, for the leaders. And basically the way it works is when farmers are interested, we scout the property. We try to identify 6 different spots where we can put out ground blinds. And once that's done, we put out registrations so people can sign up for these hunts. And we do 4 different hunts. We do the youth hunt, we do the early antlerless, we do a muzzleloader hunt, a late season hunt. And on the day of the hunts, what happens is we have hunt leaders that meet up with the people that are.
Brian, I got to let you go. I'm absolutely out of time. I think we got to the meat of the discussion a little bit late. The website huntmicollaborative.com. That's huntmicollaborative.com. We'll take a break. When we come back, Nick Grillo of Michigan Brand Meats, a new product they have. We'll also see how Nick's hunting season is going so far. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC, also 2 stations, 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And north of the bridge in the Sioux on WKNW, 1400 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by... let's go Killer Food Plots. I know you're not putting in food plots right now, but you're probably hunting over food plots. To be honest, don't you wish your food plot looked a little nicer? And it could if you work with the right people. And I'm thinking of Rich Krazan at Killer Food Plots. Go to the website killerfoodplots.com. It's killerfoodplots.com. Also, Killer Food Plots does have they sell blinds, and they have a lineup of scents, cover scents, and attractants that could be very valuable this time of year. The website, killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com. I love Killer Food Plots because they are a Michigan-based family-owned company. And that's one of the reasons why I love Michigan Brand Meats. Michigan-based, family-owned. Nick Grillo is a part of the Grillo family behind Michigan Brand Meats. Good friend of mine, good guy, hardcore hunter, hardcore angler. And he joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Nick, welcome back. How are you?
Great, Mike. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Listen, how is your season going so far?
Oh, it's not too bad. Having a lot of fun. Haven't been able to get a deer down yet, but working on it. I've had some close calls, so can't ask for more.
Well, and it's good. And it's going to get nothing but better from now on, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I had 2 times that I should have been able to take a buck, and I kind of wasn't rushing it because it was earlier in the season. It was the first week of October there. And so I kind of was like, well, I'm not going to chance, through brush and through quick shots and all. And unfortunately, I never got another shot at him before he walked off. So like I said, you can't ask for more, and season's getting going. So, yeah.
And that first couple of weeks of October was so warm. If only you had access to a butcher, Nick.
Exactly, yep. Yeah, we talked about that a few times, like, man, if I get one down tonight, we're going to have to take it to work tonight. We're going to have to bone it out, do everything. Yep, exactly.
Michigan Brand, aside from being hardcore hunter and anglers, you guys are just good people. You're good family people. I love to work with you guys. I love to partner with you guys. And to be honest, I love the product you make, too. The Mike Avery Hunter Sticks are outstanding. And I came across something last summer at one of Addison's softball tournaments that was new to me. Turns out you guys have been making it for a while, but now you've expanded on that. Tell me about that product.
Yeah, exactly. So the product you're talking about is the Jack Snacks, which is our venison snack stick and cheese. So we have Kobe Jack, and then we have another package that we put pepper jack cheese in. So it's a little bit of both, obviously, and it's kind of a perfect snack product, hence why we call it the Jack Snack Pack. And then when you fell in love with it this summer and you were snacking on it all summer and all fall so far, we kind of said, like, man, we should expand that line. It's such a great idea. We said, why not just do jerky? So we did end up making a jerky snack pack. So we have our beef jerky and Kobe Jack cheese, and then we have our hot and spicy and hot pepper cheese. So for those guys that want some hot products.
It's like the perfect snack. You get a little cheese in there, you get some meat in there, and it turns it from, I'm going to use the term casual snack to the real deal. I mean, it's absolutely perfect for a ball game, the hunting blind, the goose blind, whatever. On the road, a road trip, I think it's a great combo.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of, how we market it, just like you said, but also that's how we go about it. Like, we snack on them the same way, just like that. You go on an hour or two road trip up north, or you are driving in the blind, like you said, or to the hunting property, and you don't either have time for dinner or, it's whatever, just snack time. Just throw that in your cup holder, or even throw it in your backpack and have it when you get to the blind, or have it when you get to the ball fields. We've done that a bunch of times, the same exact way you just described it.
So, Nick, where do we've talked about this a lot. You guys kind of started on the east side of the state. You've grown tremendously now. You're on the west side, you're up north, you're down south, you're in the UP. If somebody carries your product, do they automatically carry the entire line of your product?
No, some of the stores do, but most of our stores are kind of like split up. It's all kind of depending on the store, what location they are and how much room they have, if we are able to use cooler space or just a rack up at the counter. So that's one great part about our website. We have a store locator, and you can look up specifically that product. So like this, the Jack Snacks, and then these jerky snack packs. Only so many stores are going to carry them because of the coolers. So if you wanted to look up that specifically, you would look up your area, and it tells you what stores. And then when you click on that store, it's going to tell you exactly what products that store carries. So that's kind of the cool part about it.
And that's on the website, michiganbrand.net, michiganbrand.net. And don't forget, Nick, I know you know this, but I'm telling our friends listening, if people use the promo code Mike20, they get 20% off the whole order.
Exactly, the entire order. So ham season's coming up, so even if you want to buy a couple hams, if you want to buy one just for your family, or if you're buying, we had a great lady call us yesterday, and she wanted to buy them for 5 or 6 different people.
Nice.
And I told her that exact thing. I was like, hey, don't forget to try to use that promo code if you're going to order it online.
Excellent.
All 5 hams, you can get that off.
And we're going to start doing the Ham for the Holidays giveaway in November on Wednesday Night Live as well. Nick, have a great season. Keep up the good work. Keep making the great products. I love working with you guys. Nick Grillo of Michigan Brand Meats, the website, michiganbrand.net. michiganbrand.net. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, Alan Perry.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction. Welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, heard on more than 30 radio stations across our great state of Michigan. And I think the best way to listen to the show, if you can, is on your local radio station. Your local radio station is kind of the heart. It's the backbone. It is what this whole Outdoor Magazine radio franchise is based on. Without those local radio affiliates, I wouldn't be able to do this show. And I'd have to turn to something else. You know what? At this point in my life, I'm just very, very happy and blessed that I have this method of talking to you. And I do recommend, if you can, to listen to the show on your local radio station. If you can't, if your local station doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if you live in one part of our state, Southeast Michigan, not covered by the broadcast signal, there's a reason for that. Isn't it nice to know that there is a podcast version of the show that is available? Now, the podcast is exactly the same content as the radio show. The only difference is you don't hear it on your local radio station. Where do you hear it? You hear it on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. It's on my Facebook page. It's on Amazon Music, Audible, X, LinkedIn, Apple Music, Google Play, iHeart, SoundCloud, Spotify, yada, 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 yada. You know, Odyssey, YouTube. I even put it up on YouTube. Now, there is not a video version of the podcast on YouTube. It is an audio version. But regardless, people listen to the show on YouTube every week. I do like podcasting, though. And here's the thing about podcasting. Anybody can do it. It's not like, say, in the old days when I was in TV and you wanted to do something, man, it was hard. If you wanted to do anything live, you needed a video camera, you needed a photographer, you needed a live truck, you needed a studio back at the station with a director, a technical director, an audio person. I mean, it was a big deal. Even now in radio, to do this radio show, I come into the studio and work with the folks here. A podcast, on the other hand, you could take the phone that's in your hand or in your pocket right now, and you could make a podcast, and you could upload it, and you could reach an audience. And if your content is good, you will grow that audience. So podcasting is very exciting. I do podcasts every month. In addition to the Outdoor Magazine radio podcast, I do podcasts for Offshore Tackle, Angler Quest Boats, and Killer Food Plots, so keep an ear out for those. Right now, a lot of people in our state are thinking about deer hunting, deer season. This first week of November now, well, going right up until gun season. The whitetail rut, a very exciting time in the whitetail world. A lot of these bucks are letting their guard down. The testosterone level is up. The hormone level is up. You might see them in the daytime, and it's really exciting. Our goal, every hunter's goal, is to make a quick, clean, humane killing shot, whether it's a bow or a gun. Quick, clean, humane killing shot. And ethical hunters, and I believe that the vast majority of hunters are indeed ethical, will not take a shot unless they are convinced they will make that quick, clean, humane killing shot. Sometimes things happen, though. Animal moves, the shot isn't as good as you thought, there's brush in the way, whatever. There's a million different excuses or reasons how that can happen. When it does happen, these days here in our state, we have what I think is a very, very good option to help recover fatally wounded whitetails, and that's the use of tracking dogs. Personally, I'd like to see us be able to use thermal drones as well. I think that would be one more tool in our toolbox, but for now, I'll take a tracking dog. Alan Perry is a tracker. You can find him on Facebook at Hit 'em Back Tracking on Facebook. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Alan, welcome to the show. How are you?
Mike, appreciate it. Yeah, doing well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Hey, so listen, help me figure something out. Are you also a part of the Michigan Deer Tracking Network, or is that a separate deal? How does that all work?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we are a part of the Michigan Deer Tracker Network, so you can reach us either way on Facebook or through the Michigan Deer Tracking Network. So, yes, a network of trackers throughout and we cover, of course, the entire state. And there's many other groups, but that's the one that we're associated with. So, yeah, there's an app that you can download and be able to access trackers really across the state.
Yeah.
With Michigan Deer Tracking Network, you've reached one, you've reached them all. So.
I'm looking at that right now. It's an app that you download for your phone. This is very nice. Find a tracker, register a deer, all kinds of great information here. Tell me about you, Alan. How did you get started doing this? How long have you been tracking?
So this is our 9th season. The old saying, it's invention is it's part of necessity. So I myself needed a tractor about 15 years ago or so, and I was totally blown away by the process. We ended up jumping a live deer, but I was so hooked. I said to the tractor, I said, "Hey, if you guys ever have a pup, I'd like to get one." And hence, here we are today. It was a commitment that I didn't realize that I was making, so I don't hunt as much as I used to. But tell you what, I don't regret it a bit. It's so much fun being able to go out track, find other people's deer that they would, in most cases, not have a chance to find. So it's been great. I love every minute of it.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Once you get in at the level you are, so I would think your hunting sometimes takes a back seat to your tracking.
Yes, yeah, it does. I don't hunt nearly as much as I used to, but at the end of the day, it's okay. It's equally rewarding when you find somebody else's deer. For me, it's a rush, and that's why I do it. It's so much fun. It's so much fun.
Now,
or you're giving that hunter that peace of mind.
Well, peace of mind, yes, exactly. And you mentioned that when you were tracking on your deer years ago, you jumped a live deer. So all of your tracks do not result in recoveries, but oftentimes they do result in the confirmation that the animal was not fatally hit, correct?
Yes, absolutely right. Yep. Yeah, we've got one of those tracks that we're running this morning. This is a fairly new hunter to the industry. This is only his second year. He's hit one, and he wants that peace of mind. He wants to know that he hasn't overlooked anything and possibly left a deer out there. Been in multiple conversations with him already, and I understand it because that's how I got started. So I said, if you want that peace of mind, sure, we'll come out and run it. Now, the likelihood of recovery is pretty slim on this one, but I totally understand his position, and we're going to run it for him. So.
Do you sometimes, based on this pre-track conversation with a hunter, do you decide and just say, look, I don't think you got a dead deer here. We're not going to come out. Does that ever happen?
Happens quite a bit, Mike. It happens more often than people think. And that's one of the things that I take the time with each and every hunter. I'll answer a lot of questions. If you have any blood, you send it to me. If you have an arrow, send it to me. I'll take a look at it. I'm going to give you, based on the conversation, based on the shot distance, based on the tree stand ground blind, and what I'm seeing, so all the pieces of the puzzle fit together, and does the story align with what I'm seeing, with the blood on the ground, with the blood on the arrow? If it aligns, then we can make a plan. If I feel it's 50-50, there's a 50% chance that this deer's dead, I'm going to tell the hunter that, and I'm going to say, you know what, if you'll have us out, we'll come. When it's not, those are the conversations that you have to have with them, because, it's a decision that the hunter himself has to make. And so I ask a ton of questions before we take a track. I want to know, how the deer reacted, where they think they hit them, and then we send them a picture of the deer and a grid. And so we get as much information as we can to make an educated decision on where we believe the deer was hit based on all the information that was supplied to us.
I find it interesting, too, that you said we'll take the story that the hunter tells us. And you didn't mean this in a derogatory term, and I didn't take it that way. However, I think sometimes hunters have a vision of how a hit happens, and I think I've actually been guilty of this myself. I know where I wanted to hit the animal, so in my mind's eye, that's where I did hit the animal. And sometimes it takes an outside eye like yours to come in and say, look, I don't think this is what you thought it was.
Yeah, that happens more often than hunters think. And look, we're all hunters, right? So I get the emotional high that they're on when that deer comes in, or the buck of a lifetime, or that one opportunity that they've had. We all know that they get that rush of adrenaline, that buck fever, and so they make that, in their mind, they've made a perfect shot.
Sure.
In reality, when we get there, kind of scratching our head that, your shot was good and it was fatal, but it was not quite where you thought it was. So we always, that's where all the pieces of the puzzle come together based on what the hunter's telling us.
Hey, when we stop getting that rush then we should stop hunting. We're talking with Alan Perry of Hidden Back Tracking Service. You can find him at Hidden Back Tracking on Facebook. He's also part of the Michigan Deer Tracking Network. And there is an app you can download on your phone for that. Got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, a lot more questions for Alan, including basset hounds. I'm looking at his pictures right now. Is there a dog that looks like it just needs to be cuddled more than a basset hound? And when I see him sitting over a nice buck with a bunch of people smiling about a recovery, makes me like that dog even better. So we'll get some tips on Alan on how to get the most out of a tracking dog, when to call a tracking dog, and more after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Houghton Lake on the Twister, 92.1. Sounds good, Charlie. 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS, 1320 AM. Let's go north of the bridge. Let's go to Escanaba. WCHT, 600 AM, 93.5 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine. Oh, here we go. There you go. That's all I have to do, isn't it? You know by now what that is. That is the sound of the Rapid River knife coming out of my pocket and locking back open. I love Rapid River knives. They are handmade by craftsmen in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. They come with a lifetime guarantee. They're a great Christmas gift idea. I hate to talk about Christmas already, but the folks at Rapid River are going to get so busy here so fast. If you want a Rapid River knife for a Christmas gift, in particular, the Avery Signature Limited Edition knife, proceeds of that go to Outdoor Driven, a group formed to get first responders and vets in the outdoors on adventures. I would order it pretty soon. Go to rapidriverknifeworks.com, rapidriverknifeworks.com, or go to the showroom on US 2 just east of Rapid River. A phenomenal place. If you use the promo code MikeAvery15, either in person or online, you can get 15% off your order. Now, that's not true of the Avery Signature knife. We want to keep all of the proceeds into that. We don't want to cut into the profits because all that money goes to Outdoor Driven. The website, rapidriverknifeworks.com, rapidriverknifeworks.com. I have yet to use my Avery Signature Rapid River knife on a field dressing job. I'm hoping that this deer season that will indeed happen. I'm also hoping that I do not have to call in a tracking dog. Now, I don't think there's a stigma associated with that at all. I'm just hoping I don't have to use the service. If I do, I would not hesitate. Because again, as hunters, our job is to do everything we can to recover the animal that we hit. Alan Perry is with Hidden Back Trackers. You can find him on Facebook. He's also part of the Michigan Deer Tracking Network. Alan, you're tracking with basset hounds. I feel like that basset hound should be curled up at my feet in front of a fireplace with me scratching his ears. What are you doing taking him out in the woods, tracking down deer with him?
Well, you know, they're just built for the occasion, right? Low to the ground, long ears, scent stays in front of their face, in front of their nose. I mean, they're by design, they're designed perfectly for what it is that they've been trained to do. So they're really a great fit, and tremendous olfactory system within a basset. So, but yes, they are. When we're not tracking, they're our family, they're our boys. So,
I got to believe this time of year and for the next few weeks, you guys don't get a lot of rest. I mean, it seems like you could probably run tracks all day long, every day, if you had the energy to do it.
Yeah, I'll often tell clients I basically got to quit before my dogs are going to quit, because you just get run down. We ran all day yesterday. We've already got a couple scheduled for today. So yeah, it's nonstop. And this time of year, our call volume goes completely through the roof. On weekends, we'll get anywhere between 20 to 30 calls. You can't take them all, but you try to get as much help to the hunters as we possibly can through the network, through other trackers that we know. It's
it can be pretty chaotic at times.
When should we, as a hunter, make that call to you? Should we wait till we've exhausted every option on our end, or should we try to get ahead of it?
Yeah, really good question, Mike, because the call should be, even if the call is made ahead of time, just to give a tracker a heads up. That's really a good situation. And then typically what we'll say is, hey, do you have any pictures of blood? Do you have any pictures of your arrow? And just kind of give them a read on the situation as to what we're seeing. But the earlier the better, especially now that the rut is coming, because availability on our trackers becomes very, very limited with the call volumes that we're dealing with. But it typically, there's no rush in this cooler weather to run out and track a deer, minutes after you shoot it. And that's the single biggest mistake most guys make, is they go way too soon. I've often told hunters, if you go more than 75, 80 yards, and yes, you found blood, and you haven't found your deer, back out. Because chances are you may have soft bumped them, you may have pushed them a little bit, and that's a situation where we usually get called in. When the hunters take it beyond that, they'll take it 200, 300, and they bump the deer, they push the deer because they didn't read the arrow, they didn't read the blood. It might be liver, it might be gut, and you have to give those deer time. So typically they go too early. That's the number one reason why we get calls, is because they push the deer.
Should we go ahead and call in our buddies and do a grid search? And, I know your time is valuable. Should we call in the troops, call in the cavalry, and try to search the area thoroughly before we call you guys?
So in the middle of the rut, as we just mentioned, with the call volumes the way they are, if you just cannot get a tracker to come out because everybody's booked and everything is stacked up, then that's a last resort. The dogs can work through a grid search area. It just takes a lot longer because as you're grid searching, you're moving that scent around, and it becomes more difficult. The dogs can do it. It just adds so much more time to it. And the dog's got to check everything out. So he's checking primary and secondary scent. When you've moved it around, he has to confirm whether, yes, that's a deer, or no, there's just not as much scent here, and it's possibly that secondary that's been moved. It's not really the primary. So he's got to figure out through that grid searched area and into clean scent again where that deer exited. So that's, as a last resort, I would say yes. I wouldn't say that that's the primary means of finding your deer grid searching. Again, it's always best at that point, if you've gone that 80 and you haven't found it, back out, get a hold of a tracker and see what they think at that point. And if you can't get a hold of them, then that's your other option, is to grid search it out and do the best you can to try to find the deer.
All right, so you vet your phone calls ahead of time. You talk to the hunter, you get his story, you see pictures if you've got them. So when you agree to come out on a track, you have a reasonable expectation of a recovery. What is the percentage rate? And this isn't a reflection of you, but it's just dogs in general. How many deer do you find based on how many you start out after?
Yeah, so the national average is right around 37%. This year we're running, in fact, I asked my wife last night, we're running right at 50. So while we're above the average, the average can be, when you ask hunters that, it can always be, or hunters ask us that rather, it can always be a sort of a leading question, because I'll take tracks like the one I'm taking this morning. It's for peace of mind. So I know the likelihood of recovery on this is slim at best, but we're doing it because it's the right thing to do. It's a younger hunter. He's only been hunting 2 years, and he wants that peace of mind. So does that affect our numbers? Yeah. So you have to kind of take it with a grain of salt, and you have to, again, get to know your trackers, get to know their abilities, get to know their dogs and such. So, but that's where we're running this year. But a lot of times we're jumping live deer, and that doesn't count. We're only counting deer that are on the tailgate. We don't count that we've jumped a live deer, which is what we did yesterday.
Well, that should count. To me, Alan, that should count as a successful track, because you've proven the animal was not fatally hit. Success.
Yeah, I get, and that's one of those questions that could be debated. I can't disagree with you. I've always thought you jump a live deer, you get that confirmation, and that it's just he's got all all four wheels working, and he's just off to the races. And you know you're not going to catch him, and you can tell by the blood that you've been tracking that he's not mortally hit, and that he's going to bed up and he'll be just fine. But as a stat, we don't count those. We only count deer on the tailgate.
The service that you offer is such a valuable resource. There used to be early on when this was legalized, and I'd get this online. People wouldn't have the guts to tell anybody in person, but online they'd say, well, if you make a shot where you have to call in a dog, you're not a very good hunter to begin with, which is absolute crap, isn't it?
100%. Yeah, things happen, and we all know all those. To your point you made earlier, a million things can happen, but it's what you do after the fact. When that oh no shot takes place, what you do afterwards not only speaks volume for you as a hunter, but it speaks volumes for you as to how you feel about the animal that you're pursuing and doing everything you can to try to recover that animal. So it's a service that's offered. I'm glad that it was back in the day when I needed it. And it's grown by leaps and bounds today, and I'm certainly glad it's a service that is available. And we always say that we wish more hunters didn't have to use it. I always tell my clients, if I never see you again, I'm okay with that.
Sure.
Because that just means they're being successful. So, but if they need us, we're there to help them out.
Man, deer are incredibly tough animals, aren't they?
I have the highest respect for them, Mike, and over these years, just some of the shots that we've seen and how far these deer have go, their will to live is unmatched. It's absolutely incredible, and each and every track, I'm amazed that these deer can be hit in some of the cases, absolutely lethal, and they go as far as they do, and they live as long as they do. They're an incredibly amazing animal, and they have my utmost respect. And that's what we put into each and every track as well. We're going to do everything we can to either A, find that animal, or B, give that hunter that peace of mind, because we really owe it to these deer and these animals that we're tracking.
I don't know if you can put a price on either a peace of mind or a trophy animal, but what do you guys charge? If I give you a call and you agree to come out and work with me, what am I going to have to pay you?
Yeah, and it really varies for myself, length of travel, so how far do we have to go? It affects the pricing, and being within the Michigan Deer Tracker Network, oftentimes we can possibly find you a tracker that's closer to you that might be more affordable. But as an example, if we got to travel a half hour, it might be 100, might be 150. If we got to go an hour or more, it might be 200, might be a little more. It really depends on location after that, and that's and it's funny, Mike, because that's not how we begin our conversations with the hunter.
Yeah,
but it's typically where we end up.
I understand, Alan. Listen, I got to let you go. Alan Perry of Hit 'em Back Trackers. He's also a part of the Michigan Deer Tracking Network. I hope you don't have to talk to Alan in person on a track, but if you do, isn't it nice to know that he is there and others like him? I think the Tracking Dog Network is wonderful. We'll take a break. When we come back, Justin Tomei of MUCC. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on 98.5 WUPS out of Houghton Lake. You can hear us in Sandusky in the Thumb, WMIC, 660 AM, 95.3 FM. And you can hear us in Iron Mountain, WMIQ, 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let them create an outdoor getaway in your backyard. You want 10% off? Use the promo code Avery10 for dormant pruning, blowing out your sprinkler systems, and there was one more. I'll think of that. I'll tell you what it is. I've worked with the folks from Reader a lot. They've been in business for 60 years. So I see them at my place a lot. And the reason I keep calling them back is they do a great job. They do a great job for me as they will for you. Check them out online at readerlandscaping.com, readerlandscaping.com. I want to turn our attention now to Justin Tomei of MUCC. MUCC is a group that I use as a resource a lot. And the reason I want to talk to Justin this week is I had so many people last week say, hey, did you hear our hunting and fishing licenses are going up? And they're going to all this detail. I'm like, what? Just because the Senate approved it doesn't mean it's going to happen, or does it? Justin is the guy to ask, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Welcome back, Justin. How are you?
I'm doing well, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing real good. So listen, what is the status right now? Is this a done deal, or are we in the middle of the process?
We're halfway there. It is definitely not a done deal yet, so it has only been approved by the Senate, and it has been now shipped over to the House for their consideration. And there's no telling when or if the House will take up that version of a fee increase. So we are not there yet.
Is this part of a general overall refunding of the DNR, or is it just a license fee increase?
Both. There's some structural changes in there to how licenses can operate, and we don't have the time in a few minutes today to go into all the details, but the primary goal is a more long-term funding mechanism for the DNR and our natural resources management. But there are some actual changes to how a few things that kind of operate in there. Land acquisition stuff for wetlands in particular, a few changes to how licenses can be discounted, just to name a couple of things.
All right, so you've got the Senate version of this. The House also has a version. How are they the same? How are they different?
So the House version is a fisheries-only bill. It only addresses the fishing side of things. It doesn't have any changes to hunting or trapping in it. But similar to the Senate version, it does raise fees, but it also changes, fundamentally how a handful of things work within fisheries division. So that's the biggest difference between the two. The actual fee increases are comparable. There's differences. They're not identical. And then there's a few other things in the fisheries only bill, that maybe some fishing stakeholders would like to see. So the Senate version is comprehensive. The House version is fish only.
So does the House, is the initial reaction, are they open to the Senate version, or they say, no, we don't want any part of this?
The speaker made it pretty clear he had little interest to move it in the near future. So this was never going to be a sprint. It was always going to be a marathon. For those individuals that are interested in making sure that our natural resources and natural resources management are funded properly, what I would tell them to do is just kind of keep the idea alive, and everybody that's concerned can keep working on it over a yet to be determined time frame.
That's an interesting point. A yet to be determined time frame. But I'll be honest here, the way that the general media has been reporting this is like it's a done deal and we're going to be paying more for our licenses next spring. That's not the case, is it?
People need to brush up on their schoolhouse rock. This bill is it's alive for another year. So legislative sessions are 2 years. 25, 26 is this legislative session. Whenever they sine die at the end of 2026, that's when the bill is either sent to the governor because it passed both chambers, an identical version passed both chambers, or it's dead and they would have to restart from scratch in 2027.
So the earliest we're looking at is 2027, if that.
Yeah, so the earliest that we would see license fees, even if they passed right now, it likely wouldn't be till 2027. They may be able to finagle it because if you guys, the listeners remember, license fees start, or the license year starts, you can start buying your next year's license on March 1st. So it doesn't start with a calendar year or even a fiscal year. It's on its own license year. And so it would be unlikely that any fee, even if passed today, would take effect in 2026. It would more likely be 2027.
So real quick before we let you go, and I completely forgot what I was going to say. Don't get old, Justin, because when you get old, sometimes you have a really good question in your mind and it just goes away. And the minute we get into a commercial break, it'll come back to me.
Yeah, you'll remember and you'll text me.
That is true, because I have your number and you know that your phone buzzes a lot during the week because I like to use, and I don't mean use in a negative sense, I rely on you and MUCC as a resource to help me understand this myriad of projects and programs and processes that go on in Lansing. I think you do a great job, Justin. Keep up the good work. I would encourage people to join MUCC. MUCC.org is the website, MUCC.org. There is strength in numbers. The more people who belong to MUCC, the more members that are part of that group, the more clout that group has in Lansing. All right, now I got to put my brain back to work and see what was that question I had for Justin. MUCC.org is the website. We'll take a break when we come back. This week's Ask Avery question, I'm hoping I have a couple of questions out there to some key people. I'm hoping they get back with me right away. If not, we'll see what happens after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery. Glad to have you along with us. You can hear the show on more than 30 stations across our great state of Michigan, including News 97, 98, 98.7 WLDN out of Ludington. You can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Manistee, WTIQ 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoors men and women. They can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way this segment works is, in theory, this is your chance to get involved in the content of the show. If you have a question that you would like me to answer directly, or something you want me to pass along to, say, the folks at MUCC or DNR, somebody I might have easier access to than you do, send me the question, and I'll see what I can find out. The best way to get those questions to me is not by a social media post. I get those all the time, and sometimes I see them, and sometimes I don't. But I will see your email. Send me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. In the subject line, put Ask Avery, and I will know immediately what to do with that. Now, if you send me a question, or if you send me an email in general, and if I don't respond in a reasonable amount of time. Now, what is a reasonable amount of time? It's not like an hour, right? I strive to see and respond to every email I get. If I don't respond to you, send me another email, and in the subject line put, "Hey, stupid." That gets my attention, and it makes me realize, okay, there's something here I've missed. Please don't send me the "Hey, stupid" email an hour after the first one, because that's not a reasonable amount of time. Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. So I have had some very good questions from listeners here, and there are a couple of them I'm trying to get answers on, and I was hoping to have the answer by the time I'm here in the studio today. It didn't happen. So I'm going to hold off on those because I don't want to try to answer those questions without having the right answer for you. I have what I think is the answer, but I want to make sure it's the right answer. So in the meantime, let me talk about a couple of things, including promo codes. Nick Grillo, in the first hour of this week's show, mentioned the Avery promo. If you go to MichiganBrand.net, that's MichiganBrand.net, and use the Mike20 promo code, you can get 20% off your whole order. That can add up. Also on that website, MichiganBrand.net, if you put in your zip code, it will give you a store locator. If you go to the store locator button, put in your zip code, it'll tell you what's nearby that carries Michigan Brand. MichiganBrand.net, Mike20. Rapid River Knives, a Mike Avery 15. Mike Avery 15 gets you 15% off the entire order in the store or online at RapidRiverKnifeWorks.com. Of course, that is not for the Avery signature knife. And by the way, that Avery signature knife is is still selling very well, and I expect that it'll really skyrocket here as we get closer to Christmas time. And honestly, if you're looking to give the Avery signature knife as a Christmas gift, now is the time to make that order while the folks at Rapid River can still handle it, because they're going to get crazy here real soon. Jay's Sporting Goods Old Man Tree Stands on the Old Man Big Daddy ladder stand or the Carnivore ground blind. Jay's in Clare and Gaylord. They've bought up every one of those they can find. The supply was limited, but they grabbed what they could. If you use the Avery 30 discount, you will get $30 off the price of either one or both of those. In fact, if you just hit checkout, say, hey, Avery, I want that Avery discount, I suspect they'll know what you're talking about, but it's Avery 30. The folks at the Lumberjack Lodge, they have an Avery 15 for 15%. The Lumberjack Restaurant, Avery 10. And finally, here's the one I was talking about in the previous segment. Reader Landscaping, Avery 10, and the services are for your sprinkler blowout, your fall dormant pruning, and here's the other one I couldn't think of, core aeration of your lawn. They're still doing that and will be for a while, along with the fall cleanup and everything else. Now, following up on the Reader services at my house, I thought I was being really smart. I had the guys from Reader come in and clear out the brush between our yard and the pond. It had really gotten out of hand. I left it up because I wanted to leave it there to see if it would knock down on road noise and also to discourage the big flying rats, also known as geese, from coming up in the yard. Guys from Reader came over and they cut all the brush down just like I had asked. And also just like I had asked, I said, hey, I've got several trees that are really going to be nice trees. Let's leave those standing. They break up aesthetically. They look good. And they're nice. Let's leave those up. And they did. 2 days after they cut the brush down, I came home and there was 200 geese in the backyard. And that's not an exaggeration. So that didn't work out so well. And within a week of taking that brush down, every tree that the Reader crew had left standing had been taken down by the beavers. Wow. Mother Nature. Appreciate you. Thanks a lot. Didn't do me a lot of good to cut that brush down, did you? Well, there's more to both of those stories, and I'll keep you informed on how those go. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back in our third hour, Mark Martin on fall fishing, deer hunting, the sand dunes, and more. And, of course, Dixie Dave.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. So glad to have you along with us as we work our way through, the fall, but as you're hearing this, it is the first weekend in November. The month of Rocktober is behind us. The month of November is ahead of us. And that's good, too, because November's a pretty cool month. It's the whitetail rut. It includes the firearm season opener for deer. It includes some wonderful fall fishing that often gets overlooked. And both of those topics, fall fishing and deer hunting, are two topics that are, well, very close to the heart of our guest for this hour. His name is Mark Martin. Mark is an interesting, fascinating guy. I first became aware of Mark many, many years ago as he was a guide over on Muskegon Lake and the Muskegon Channel, a walleye fishing guide, and his niche was fishing at night. He was putting big walleye in the boat like nobody else in our state. In fact, it was Mark Martin's clients who forced the DNR to increase the master angler walleye size from 9 pounds up to 10 pounds and beyond, because Mark was putting so many big fish in the boat. I had the wonderful experience of fishing with Mark one night with my dad when he was still around. I'll never forget that. It was like watching a master class in person. Mark would say, okay, there's a fish. Get ready. There's a tick. Boom, there's a fish. And it was like if Mark said there was a fish going to bite, a fish was going to bite. So Mark took that expertise, that notoriety, and when the professional walleye trail first came around years and years ago, Mark said, okay, I'm going to fish this thing as well. And a lot of naysayers said, yeah, you know what? That Mark Martin guy, he's a good stick. But he can only catch fish on Muskegon Lake after dark. Mark proved him wrong. He proved he could catch fish anywhere, anytime. In fact, he went on to win the first professional walleye trail tournament. He's like the original champ. He's the OG. And he is still out there today teaching anglers how to fish and more. And he's with us on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Mark, welcome back. How are you?
Well, very good. Thanks for the great introduction. I love it. You know, sometimes I forget what I've done until I listen to you.
Well, you have. You've done so much. I mean, you are a walleye fishing icon in our state, but you're also a real darn good deer hunter as well. Where do we take our conversation first? You want to talk deer hunting or you want to talk fishing?
It don't matter to me. I was 75% in bear hunting up here with my pro staff. They came up and we were 70 out of 4 people. We got 3.
Well, let's talk bear hunting because that is my absolute favorite. I would quit walleye fishing and I would quit deer hunting for bear hunting. So tell me, you were up in the Kietzman, I imagine?
Yep. I was up here, probably, it came up in September and started baiting for about a month because I had third season. Mm-hmm. And I had all my pro staff, or the ones that wanted to, sign up with me. So we kind of party hunted, I guess you can call it that. But I set up all the stands and... Man, this was the best year I've ever seen. I mean, I had some stands with 3-4 bears before I'd even leave. Sometimes they started coming out, which was kind of spooky for me at first. Standing up on their back legs, looking at. I mean, in Michigan, I can imagine in Canada that kind of stuff happening, but here I'm in Michigan, and they'd get tired of me. Waiting for me to bait, and I'd come back to the bike, walking back, and here's the first time I see this black bear standing up on its hind feet, looking at me over the top of the cedars. I'm like, ooh, I don't have a sidearm. So I just banged the bucket on my leg, and it dropped down and ran in. Well, I had to go by it, so I'd never seen it, but I went and looked at my cameras later, and a couple minutes later, it was on the bait. But these bear were on the bait in this one particular bait within 10 minutes at the most every day, and they'd stay there all day long from 9 o'clock in the morning till Michigan. And so I had this one scoped out for my buddy, and then mine was almost as predictable, but. Andrew Hendrickson, right? He got the second biggest bear up here in the Kietzman, according to Copper Harbor.
Wow.
And it was, it wasn't a monster by any hint, but it was 261 pounds. So we put it on a scale up there. And so I said, how big's that? He go, well, this is the second biggest one. We weighed in, not saying that somebody could have taken it further somewhere else if they got one up here. but that is the biggest conservation officer's seen up here. So that was something to be proud of. But we got, mine was 169, and then one of my other pro staffs was in that same vicinity right there. So we had a good season up here. Seen bigger bear, of course, on camera, but just to get them to come out in the daylight, we should have been 100%, but you got to stick to a schedule when you do these things. And, if you hadn't been doing it for a month, you don't understand, or you never bear hunted before, you don't understand. You got to, if you start baiting them at 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, you better adhere to it, because you're not going to take the bait out with you at 4 o'clock and sit down and expect to see them at 5. You're going to see them at 4 in the morning. They start getting complacent, and they go, if you put it out early, they're afraid of other bears getting it. So they'll show up in the daylight then.
Yeah, and that third season is notoriously tough. So to go 75% in the third season, that's a good job.
Yeah. Everybody told me that. I was like, well, I worked hard at it, and if we could have just kept, the last guy, instead of wanting to go out when he wanted to go out to bait them, that would have been a lot better.
What is it about the Kietzman? You love the Kietzman. You've got a place up there. You spend as much time as you can possibly can up there. What is it about the Kietzman?
Well, I like, Bob Gwiz, Bob, he
Sure.
came up and we bird hunted, and all of us. And so we were shooting partridge and woodcock, and, just having a good time that way. And then you're kind of scouting for everything else while that's happening. And so you get your friends, but then you got the fishing too. The fishing is, now it's starting to get good because now it has cooled down. So that made a big difference. It was really warm. On some of my bear cameras, I got temperature on it. I remember a couple days, the bear are out in the daytime, and I seen 100 degrees on my camera.
Wow.
So they got black coats. I'm like, how? It was hot. Just, I had all the windows and doors open in the house, but having a bear sit out in the middle of the day in that temperature, they kind of like hot weather. When it cools down, sometimes they slow down, but when it was hot, they're really active. And so the fish weren't as active then, but as soon as it started to cool down, well, now the walleye, the pike, the smallmouth, the splake, they're all starting to pick up right now. Last year at this time, it was much warmer, so things were really delayed. Now they're coming back into perspective right now. And they're putting on the feed bag. The splake are spawning because they do it in the fall along with the lake trout. So we're catching them too, lake trout. So it's a potpourri. When we get done here today, guess what? My friends want to go fishing. So we're going to go fishing.
Oh, it's a great time of year. Are we going to go fishing? Are we going to go hunting? And when you're talking with Mark Martin, it's as good as it gets. Mark Martin, a member of the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame. He's the original champion for the National Walleye Tournament. He's an educator. He's a guide. And he's just an all-around interesting guy. We've got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. But when we come back, we're going to talk more with Mark. Let's talk about deer hunting in the sand dunes. Now, you might think, what does Mark Martin know about deer hunting in the sand dunes? Well, guess what? He's the first guy I heard about who has ever done this. So we'll talk about that. And then we got to talk about fall fishing and more with Mark Martin. His website is markmartins.net. markmartins.net. So we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk with Mark. We'll pick his brain a little bit and see where the conversation takes us. Markmartins.net is the website. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine, and the guy we're talking with right now, his name is Mark Martin. Markmartins.net. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on more than 30 stations across this great state of Michigan, including WMLQ in Manistee, that's 97.7 FM. And in Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the truck trolley. What is a truck trolley? You've heard me talk about it. Well, the truck trolley is a removable, retractable platform for the bed of your truck that allows you access to everything in the bed of your truck. No longer do you have to climb up on the tailgate and climb to the front of the bed or use the old man stick to reach those things. Just use the truck trolley, and it allows you access. This is for hunting gear. It's for fishing gear. It's for sports equipment. Check them out online at trucktrolley.com. That's trucktrolley.com. Now, here's the interesting part. Andy Weiss of Truck Trolley has maybe 2 truck trolleys left at a very, very deep discount. I can't even tell you what it is. If you send Andy an email to info@trucktrolley.com, that's info@trucktrolley.com, you can deal with him directly and he can tell you what the price is. I'm not allowed to say it online. I'm not allowed to say it on the air. Send Andy an email, info@trucktrolley.com, and you'll see what I mean, trucktrolley.com. Right now, I'm talking with a man who is, well, an icon in the outdoors in Michigan. He's a member of the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame. He's been a fishing guide for many years, a professional angler, a tournament angler, and a hardcore hunter as well. His name is Mark Martin. The website is markmartins.net, markmartins.net. Mark, I appreciate your time. So many things we could talk about. Let's turn our attention right now to deer hunting and deer hunting in the sand dunes. How in the world did you discover this, and what is the key to taking big bucks in the middle of nowhere in the sand dunes?
Well, before we start on that, I just want to elaborate on what you were just talking about, because I've had a truck trolley for quite a while.
I did not know that.
Mine. Yeah, so you can tell Andy hi from me, and hopefully that helps him. You know, I like it. You know, it's easier than climbing. Just like you said, you were truthful with everything you said.
Trucktrolley.com, endorsed by Mark Martin. How cool is that?
That's right. And it also, you can put a bear on it and push it in and pull it back out, too.
Yes, you can put a bear in there. I've done that. You can put a deer in there. I've done that. It's the real deal.
It's nice. Just got to wash it after that.
Hey, that's easy to do. Pull up to the car wash and spray it down. Andy's going to love to hear you talk about this.
Oh, yeah, tell him hi. And, okay, we're back to the sand dunes now.
Yeah.
Well, I was walking, just through the sand dunes with my wife and stuff. No, it's not with my wife. I was with my friends, and then I walked through there with my wife and everything too. But I was walking with my friends back when we were young, and just kind of went, wow, look at all these deer runways through the sand. Just unbelievable. You couldn't, and we went, well, maybe we should hunt back here. And this was in the Ludington area, between Ludington and Manistee. And it was like falling back 100 years, because there was no human footprints back there. And we found some signs blowing down that said there's bear hunting and stuff, national, federal land and everything, so you don't even see those signs anymore where you can deer and bear hunt on signs. I've seen them laying in the sand. That's how long ago it was. But I said, well, let's go, and so we started bow hunting at first back there. That was, you find the right tree, that's great, but it was more adhered to rifle, because it reminded me, once I started going out west a lot, you're out west. Your shots could be long, 450, 500, 600 yards, and you better have a tripod and and some way to hold that gun steady. But you found little pockets of bait piles, I call them. And some of them had acorns and beech nuts and all sorts of mast crops are back in there, but they're not like a forest. It's like a forest had been spared in a little pothole, and the deer come to it. So we'd back off from this bait pile or pocket of mast crops on a sand dune, but you never want to get your head above that sand dune, so you can never really see what's on the other side of that sand dune, because if you did, they learned to silhouette people, even if it was just their head and shoulders and stuff like that. So we just kind of gave up on what's on the other side, and just paid attention to our visuals in front of us. And you could never hear the deer coming because you're walking in the sand. You just had to be on guard the whole time, and here they come. And then you had to pick which one do I want to shoot that 6-point? No, I got to drag it out of here. So we choose, anything 130 and above.
Wow.
We had to put and there was, you always got a deer, and so you had to set your sights because it's tough. And I'd take a boat in a lot of areas, then anchor it offshore, and then run a anchor rope all the way back to shore and stick it in. And then when it come time, I could stretch the other, the rope. I could pull it. What I'd do is I'd pull it back, and then what you do, if you don't want, you kind of use it as a spring. So you anchor it really good offshore, and then you have another rope that you can pull it back to you on shore. Waders, because you got to wade out a little ways, and then you don't want to get it too close because of the waves and stuff like that. So that made it kind of precarious, I'd say, at times. We found that out one time, and that's why we started getting it offshore a little ways. And so, but we seen more in Michigan. Okay, this is Michigan. This isn't Kansas or Saskatchewan. We seen like a lot of 130 to 160 bucks. I think the biggest one we ever got was probably 160 something. My buddy got. Yeah, back in the sand dunes. And that's pretty impressive. It kind of looked like some of those deer that were on the pump station project. I don't know if you ever been up there and seen those deer inside of their fence on the Ludington pump where they had create electricity.
No, but I can imagine. They're protected back in there. But this is interesting though. Yeah, you're not going to hear them walking because they're walking on sand. They're and nobody's bothering them, at least until you kind of blew the lid off this whole thing. I never heard of anybody hunting sand dunes until Mark Martin talked about it.
And now they do, and I never did. I might seen one guy a year come through, maybe, and but it's amazing now how many people that are hunting them. And, but I like to help people. I like to help people fish better. I like to help people hunt better, smarter maybe. That's what I should say. Look in the places that other people aren't looking, and then you're going to have more success, And that's kind of what those sand dunes are like, And the only drawback is, most places don't allow wheeled vehicles of any kind. So you got to figure out, you can't have a cart, you can't have a four-wheeler, so you got to carry it out or drag it out. Dragging a deer on sand is about like dragging a 200-pound bear out of the woods. They're Velcro.
Yeah, like you say, you got to decide, do I want to drag this buck out of here? So it's going to be a big buck before you're going to pull the trigger.
Right. Right, exactly. And I've carried them Indian style on, cut an oak tree, a small oak tree down, and tied their feet around it, and then walked them off. And we did it. And then we did. My buddy and I both got 135 and a 140s one day, and it took us all day long to get them back to the boat. And this was in the morning.
Wow.
So you got it, it's not like, oh, you're going to shoot it and just drag it. It's not that simple. I don't want to make people go, oh, now what do I do?
Yeah, well, it's not an easy hunt. It's a hardcore hunt, right?
Right, yeah. You go up a sand dune, you take 2 steps and go back a step. Because you're sliding back down, a lot of times. And now if you're starting to get a deer out of there, it's twice as bad or worse.
Wow.
But it's fun because you're going to have a trophy. You're going to see a trophy anyhow, okay? Let's just put it that way. You will see a trophy, whether your abilities will allow you to shoot the distance or, whether you want to really take it out and what's your idea of a trophy. There's plenty of bucks to shoot. So, I mean, it's not like you got to, if you want just a buck, you're going to get a buck. You want a trophy sometime during the season, you're going to get one.
Well, I know your buddies are getting ready to go fishing, but listen, I got to offer you the coveted third because we haven't even talked about fall fishing yet. Can you stick around a few more minutes?
Yeah, I can. No problem.
All right. Tell your buddies to be mad at me, not you. We're talking with Mark Martin. His website is markmartins.net, markmartins.net. And let's talk a little fall fishing. Mark said the water's getting cold now. The temps are dropping, so the fish are putting on the feed bag. What kind of fish? Well, trout, walleye. He mentioned splake, bass. We'll talk more about that after the break. Mark is up in the Keweenaw right now, one of his favorite places. I love the Keweenaw. It is a beautiful, remote part of our great state of Michigan. If you have not been to Copper Harbor, Copper Country, and the Keweenaw, check it out. If you have not been to Mark Martin's website, markmartins.net, check it out. If you haven't been to my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, check it out. We'll take a break. When we come back, the coveted third with Mark Martin right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Muskegon on WKBZ. That's 1090 AM. You can hear us in Tawas, WIOS, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. You can hear us in Traverse City, WTCM, 580 AM. And you can hear us in Saginaw on WSGW AM and FM, 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I am in the studios of WSGW right now. I am here with Charlie Rood. Charlie used a term earlier. Now, you young people might not even know what this is. It's Rolodex. ROLODEX. Look it up. Do a Google search on Rolodex, and you'll see what we're talking about. That describes how long Charlie Rood has been around, but it does not describe his impact on radio in general. Charlie is, well, right now there are people out here in the parking lot. They're starting to show up. Moms in minivans. They pulled the kids out of school. The young kids that are not in school yet. And when Charlie leaves here, they're going to be chanting, Charlie, Charlie, Charlie. That describes Charlie Rood right there. People, they just think so highly of him. As do I, Charlie Rood. I think so highly of you, and I really enjoy my time in the studio with you. I also enjoy my time talking with other interesting people, other than Charlie Rood. Mark Martin. Mark Martin is a guy who has been around the fishing industry forever. Mark, let's talk about fall fishing in the few minutes we have left of our conversation. Why is it that the fishing gets so good in the fall?
Well, and for some species, like the lake trout and the splake and things, that concentrates them into spawning areas. And, they spawn just like bass and bluegills, and, they make beds or redds, whatever you want to call them, and they protect them. So if you find these areas, and they're free swimming around, so you're, catching them too. But if you get into where they're actively spawning, they're pretty territorial, just like all other fish are. And you put something across them or on their redds or beds, they're going to attack it. In fact, I got a magazine here that Bob Gwiz wrote. And he didn't write the magazine. He wrote the article, as in the Michigan Outdoors magazine. I think it just came out, or the one prior to it. And he fished with me at Copper Harbor. And we were the only ones around. It's as fast as you could cast, you had a fish, and they averaged between 3 and 7 pounds. I mean, world-class fish. Beautiful color like brook trout. And we're going at it, and the whole front of my boat was just filled with eggs and sperm. It was a mess. And finally, we looked at each other and went, Bob, do we need any more fit? Do we need any more pictures? We had and Bob, he keeps keeps track of every count of how many. I didn't even. He said, well, we've caught over 40 of them now. Wow. I says, I don't think we need to hurt them any bit worse, do we? He goes, no. He says, I got what I need. He said, this is the best. And I said, Bob, and he put this quote of mine in at the end of the story. I said, you know how people tell you that you should have been here yesterday? I said, this is yesterday. I've never had another day like that. I mean, I've had good ones, but not extraordinary ones. So it concentrates these fish. When you find them, first you got to find them and to get them like that. And it was fun. It was, and they fight like, just go and cast. And we were casting husky jerks and catching them. We had bobbers with spawn out. Finally we just put the spawn and bobbers away because you could catch them on husky jerks. Why have so many rods that you're going to get tangled up into them after a while? So that was fun. But no, you can catch them on crankbaits, you trolling or casting, little Cleos. You can make long casts with them, spoons of any size and shape, anything that, especially when you're this time of year, like I say, they're territorial when you get into their territory. So you're going to have a good time, but they're all coming into shore because they're picking out their spawning ground. So you just go along shore, just like you're bass fishing, and cast and cast and cast, and all of a sudden, unless you got forward-facing sonar, you can see them, but you're going to run into them doing just the old-fashioned search and destroy method, and that's how that works. And then the walleye, they're putting on the feed bag, the bass are putting on the feed bag, the northern are putting on the feed bag, and then occasionally you get a muskie up here once in a while doing the same thing. And I'm, using husky jerks, I'm using spoons for casting, but I like to trap my own minnows. Wow. And then I use a live bait rig, and we're using big minnows.
That's pretty hardcore right there, trapping your own minnows. Although it's not something that surprises me hearing that from you, Mark Martin. I would encourage people to go to your website, markmartins.net. That's markmartins.net. Thank you for the stories. Thank you for the information. Thank you for the advice. Conversations with Mark Martin are always interesting. If you get a chance to see him, do it. Go to the website, markmartins.net. Dixie Dave coming up. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. I do certainly appreciate you being along with us this week. I also appreciate the fact that my good friend and wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar takes time out from his schedule to join us every week with a wonderful wild game recipe, and he's with us once again. David, welcome back, buddy. How are you?
Good. I'm glad you're doing as good as you are. Congratulations on your 1-year anniversary from your stroke and such a great recovery.
My stroke anniversary. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. It was, God was watching out for me. I had a wonderful medical team, but I am convinced it was the prayers of so many people, you and Terry included. It was God's grace that it just wasn't my time. He didn't want to see my ugly face in front of him yet. And for that, I feel very blessed. And thank you, David, for bringing that up. I do appreciate it.
Good. I'm so happy for you, Mike.
Thank you, Dave. I'm doing great. No long-term impacts. No longer-term impact at all. What about a recipe, my friend? What do you got for us this week?
Well, we got on page 92 a pheasant coq au vin, which is a French version of pheasant and red wine.
Fancy schmancy this week, Dave.
Really. In some areas you can still hunt pheasants, Is that put and take still going on this year?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's called, it's not put and take, but I know what you mean, but it's the modern version of put and take, and it's very, very popular. It's the pheasant release program. You buy a pheasant stamp for it, and it is at several state game areas across the state.
Right. So that's pretty cool. All right. Well, anyways, it's a pheasant coq au vin, and it serves 4 to 5 people. You need 2 pheasants cut in by 8 after you skin them, and you can check for shot by holding the pheasant up, the pieces of meat up to a 100-watt light bulb in a darkened room, and the shot that travels through the meat, it makes like a line, and you can see it real good where the shot would be. So you don't want to be chomping down on a nice piece of meat and have a shot in your mouth. You need a medium onion diced fine, 2 carrots sliced quite thin, 3 to 4 cloves of garlic, a 12-ounce package of mushrooms cut into quarters. You want nice chunks of that this time. 2 to 3 ounces of brandy, a cup or so of burgundy wine, maybe even a little bit more, 3 cups of water or stock if you wanted to boil the skin and stuff like that and make some stock with vegetables. You could do that. That would work out real good. You need 2 jars of beef gravy. And what I would recommend is to grind a lot of pepper all over this before you do anything with it. And if I was making this for Mike Avery, I'd put an extra amount of black pepper on it.
God bless you for that.
Flour to dredge and olive oil to saute. It's a pretty straightforward recipe. So you're going to dredge the meat in flour, and you're going to brown it on all sides in a nice hot saute pan. Do it in small batches so that you can get it all nice and caramelized all around, and don't crowd it. Remove it to an oven-proof baking dish. In a heavy quart, maybe 6-quart saucepan, and a small amount of oil. Saute the carrots, the onions, the garlic, and the mushrooms for just a couple of minutes to break the flavor loose. Flambe with brandy away from the hood. You want to make sure that you do not do this underneath the hood because brandy is pretty volatile when it's warm. Add the wine and the gravy and bring to a boil. And keep adding the mixture. Well, if you're going to use a roux, but we're going to use beef gravy instead. So you're going to have all of the ingredients mixed up together. And so out of that pan, you want to mix it up real good. Put it in a casserole and bake it at 350 degrees for at least an hour, hour and a half, depending on the age of the roosters that you're going to be cooking. Used to be when you could hunt birds in the wild, sometimes you'd get a couple 2 or 3 year old bird and it would be tough. But right now, this put and take program, they're probably just 1 year old and they're going to be tender after an hour, hour and a half. And you could serve this over noodles or biscuits and biscuits, and then put your gravy over the top of that. Boy, it's a wonderful dish. We used to make this at the restaurant lots and lots of times, and people just loved it.
No, it sounds wonderful. And, we shouldn't lead people astray. You can still hunt pheasants in the wild. In fact, folks like Tom Lounsbury out in the Thumb, he still has really strong pheasant populations. But you're right, Dave. It's not like the old days for sure. But when you talk about this recipe, it does bring back a lot of memories. That's for sure.
We did this for the show, and it went really well, too. We had a lot of requests for recipes. When we used to say to send a
self-addressed stamped envelope to P.O. Box 419, Auburn, Michigan. Oh, man, we got inundated by those things, didn't we?
Oh, God, Mike, you used to bring me shopping bags full. I wore out cartridges and cartridges on the copy machine doing this.
Yeah, nowadays we could just send them to the internet. Thank you, Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. I appreciate your well wishes, and I appreciate the wonderful pheasant recipe. Wild Game Chef Dixie Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, as are you. If you weren't listening, there'd be no reason to do this, and I would be extremely, extremely sad. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I would love to hear from you, and I'll love to talk with you next week right here on Outdoor Magazine.